I've never talked about the band Orden Ogan before. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly. But Wikipedia describes them as a German power metal band with progressive and folk metal elements, which seems kind of interesting. I'll admit, when I hear power metal, I immediately groan a bit because there are so many power metal bands that sound alike that I'm immediately disinterested. However, I have been informed recently that apparently bands like Armored Saint and Iced Earth are considered power metal, just a different style. So, power metal doesn't necessarily mean bad, and I do enjoy some power metal. I just find most of that subgenre to be more than just a bit samey. I can definitely hear the power metal elements of this band, however, I feel like they add their own twist to that subgenre. I feel like there's enough uniqueness with this band to where I can enjoy listening to some of their stuff. There is a slight bit of cheese factor. Some of the backing vocals sound a little bit too medieval to me. There are a few songs about warriors and stuff like that. But I don't normally hear a ton of songs about dragons and knights and maidens and warriors, even though I just said warriors and stuff like that. So it doesn't seem as cliche as most power metal. And somebody may be able to point out a song or two by the band in the past that maybe they do use that subject matter. I'm not ultra familiar with this band. I only just discovered them last year. In 2018, I was watching a Let's Player do Silent Hill 3. Titan Gaming, he's got a good channel, good gaming channel, certainly worth watching if you're into Let's Plays. And there was a moment where I heard this song come on. He had just died or fucked up on something and was doing a fast forward to get back to where he left off. And this song had come on, and I heard this acoustic guitar and this female singer, and I'm like, holy fuck, this sounds fucking beautiful. What is this? And then the song erupts into this massive metal epic song, and I was blown away. I was like, holy fuck, I need to ask this dude, who the fuck is this band? I had never heard them before this. I've heard all their albums now. I can't say I've given too many of them proper listens, except this one, of course, because this is the one we're here to talk about. But just to give a little bit of background of where I come from as far as this band goes, I'm not a mega fan. I haven't known these guys for a long time or anything like that. I've heard all the albums, but if you're looking for somebody who knows the material front and back, that is not this guy. So I can't really tell you how this album fits in with the band's discography, except to say that going through it, generally what I've noticed is the newer albums, this one and I want to say the last one, Ravenheart, I think it was called, are the two that I liked the most. I found that they were the least derivative, like they were trying to develop their own sound, break away from that typical power metal sound a little bit, while still keeping those elements in there. And out of the albums that I've listened to, which I believe they have 5, and I've listened to all 5, those are the two that had the songs that really stuck out the most to me. So 2017's Gunmen is Orden Ogan's 5th album, and given my limited knowledge of this band, I'm going to say it doesn't stray too far from what they've done, yet I feel like it grows a little bit. I don't feel like they're doing the same thing they've done over and over again. Yet it still feels at home and feels natural amongst the other songs and albums that they've done. There are parts of this album I wish the guitars were a little bit more up front in the mix, but I'm always a sucker for a good, heavy, chunky, meaty guitar riff. It's kind of interesting because this album has a very bright and almost happy sound to it with the guitars, a lot of emphasis on keyboards. There's a very open sound to this album. But then if you listen to the lyrics, you'll see that the lyrics are the exact opposite of that. This is not a happy album. The singer has a cool voice, and I don't feel like he sounds exactly like anybody else. I'm sure somebody could point out singers, oh, he sounds like this guy, or he sings like that guy. But he doesn't really sound like anybody important enough that I can think of to say, oh, okay, he sounds like that guy. The rhythm sections do their jobs just fine, and generally I find the songwriting to be pretty good on this album. The main thing I noticed with this album that sadly I don't really notice amongst a lot of modern albums albums that have come out post 2000, is the song identity. I can hear an opening moment of any of these songs, and I know immediately what song I'm listening to. There are so many power metal, metalcore, thrash metal, pick a genre. There are so many songs out there that have come out over the past 15, 20 years that just sound so generic, and I can't really tell one song from another. This album completely differs from that. I hear an opening moment to any of these songs, I know immediately what song I'm listening to, and that is my favorite aspect of this album, beyond the awesome songwriting. About the only gripe I can find musically about this album is the guitar solos. I'm not really a big fan of them. They seem a bit unstructured, unfocused, whatever you want to call it. I'll say this about this album, the first 5 tracks are hands down my favorite, so there are going to be very few complaints about these first 5 tracks. The album opens with a banger, the title track, Gunmen. I have higher expectations of title tracks of albums, and while this one doesn't branch out or do anything different, for me, since I hadn't heard this band before, it was all kind of original anyways. This song doesn't disappoint. It starts off with some guitar chords that kind of ring out while you have some drums playing, and you've got this really catchy keyboard melody, which you have already heard, as I'm going to put that song in the background of this review. And I love the sound of the drums as they're kind of thumping along and the song kind of builds. The song kind of stops and you hear a bit of a guitar like before you get this galloping guitar riff with the drums kicking in. I love the pacing of this song. It's very up-tempo. And this song definitely exemplifies what I was talking about with the contrast between the sound of the music and the lyrics. One of the lines in the second verse is, "Find absolution with a bullet in your head," and yet the song is so bright and happy sounding, I could easily hear a crowd singing along at a concert, "I am the darkness, I bring salvation on this day. Vengeance is my name," and that idea just cracks me up. This song is fucking amazing though. It's catchy, it's fun, it's got a great rhythm section to it. I love the guitar riffs. I wish the solo had been a little bit better, but other than that, this is an awesome opening track and I really like it a lot. And the winner for most depressing song goes to the next track, Fields of Sorrow. And you might be thinking, oh, we're already to a ballad. Nope. This is a heavier up-tempo song. It's got a good guitar riff to start off the song. There's some good guitar melodies during the intro. The vocals kick in with a really nice melody going throughout the verses. The chorus is really catchy. This is a really cool song. It's more basic. There's not a whole lot to say about it. It's just a really cool song. The solo is more restrained, and I think that services that solo a whole lot better. It's a much better solo than the previous track. In the chorus, he's singing about, on Fields of Sorrow, he lost the one he loved. She basically died or something like that. Fucking great song. I like this one a lot. Forlorn and Forsaken is the next track, and it's another up-tempo basic metal song. And I look at this song as a good middle finger to anybody who thinks that bands need to do soft songs or ballads in order to have diversity in their music. This song has its own pacing, its own guitar riffs, its own melody, yet, as you've noticed with the first 2 songs, it's also an up-tempo song, yet it still distinguishes itself quite nicely amongst the rest of the album. I really like the melodies a lot in this track, the guitar riffs are great, the chorus is catchy, it works out really well. The solo is also pretty good. I know I mentioned the solos and not being a big fan of them, but I'm thinking of a couple in particular, one we've already got to, another one we will get to. There's also a good guitar riff as the song builds towards the third chorus. I really like the instrumental break to this track a lot. And when that third chorus kicks back in, instead of being the full band and the full backing vocals going along with it, it's just the singer, a bass drum, and some guitar riffs going on before the rest of the band kicks back in. It's a really cool track. It's very catchy. It's enjoyable. Awesome song. I love it a lot. Vampire and Ghost Town is the next track, and yet we get another up-tempo song, although this one's a little bit slower than the last few songs we've got. When I read that bit on Wikipedia about them having folk metal elements, This is the song I immediately thought of because whenever I've heard this song, without having read that, my mind immediately went to this abandoned old western town with dirt roads and these old dilapidated buildings. If you've seen old western movies, you can already imagine the type of buildings that I'm picturing in my head. I'm thinking of this like town square where you would have seen like a duel between two gunslingers back in the day. Something along those lines. There's a cool galloping guitar riff, some nice drum beats going on throughout the song. We get some really cool melodies. The second verse is a little bit slower than the first, so there's some slight variations there. The chorus has a bit of a shout-along segment. It's kind of cool and varies it up a little bit from the previous tracks. And there's some cool guitar riffs towards the end of the song. This is another fucking awesome song. I like this one a lot. And next we have the winner for most wasted potential, the fifth track, Come With Me to the Other Side. This is the first song I ever heard by this band. This is one I was talking about earlier that I heard during a Let's Play of Silent Hill 3. This features a female vocalist named Liv Christine, who I think I've actually heard before. I remember looking her up. And one of the bands she had been in, I think I'd heard a song by in the late 90s or early 2000s. This song features so many amazing moments and then so many moments that I feel like just bog the song down. It's really a mixed bag. Overall, it's a song I like, but man, could this song have been epic. So it starts out with an amazing moment. We get an acoustic guitar and Liv singing the chorus to the song, and she's got a really nice voice, and it's a very peaceful intro, and it goes very well. I feel like the change from this acoustic intro to the heavy section could have been done a little bit better, but it's not poorly done either. I just feel like they could have maybe done a little bit something more to transition it just to make it more awesome, but the transition's not bad at all. Then we get a really fast-paced section with a lot of heavy guitar riffs and some good guitar melodies. It's really, really good going forward. And then we get the first chorus sung by the full band. Now, on your first listen, this isn't too bad on its own. It's tying in the intro to what the song is going to be. But as you listen to the song multiple times, for me, it kind of bothered me a little bit because my main issue with the song is we hear the phrase "come with me" so many times. It's a little much. I feel like they should not have done the chorus at this point in the song. I feel like they should have just gone into the first verse. And the first verse is fucking awesome. We get a lot of fast-paced guitar riffs and drum beats. The singer's doing his thing. He's got a great melody going. Everything's going really well. And then it transitions back into that chorus, which really should have been the first time we heard it. And the chorus is fucking great. The melodies are awesome. It's got an epic sound to it. It works really well. And then we get the second verse, which honestly kind of takes the wind out of my sails a little bit when listening to the song. It slows down. Liv does the vocals on this second verse, and she doesn't do a bad job, but a couple times she uses the phrase "come with me," and we hear that phrase so many times throughout this song that it does kind of annoy me a little bit. And I did like the first verse so much. I would have loved to have had a second verse just like that, and maybe had this as more of a third verse. I think would have been cool, or a bridge. But I do appreciate them trying to do something different and vary up the song a bit so you're not getting the same verse multiple times. So I do appreciate that aspect of the song. And she does have a good voice, and overall it is okay still. And even though it slows down to start, it does pick up speed as it's going towards the second chorus. I'm saying second chorus, ignoring the intro and the first time we actually hear it. Whatever, you get the idea. Then we get a solo, which is also a bit of a mixed bag. The first part I'm not really as into, as it's just a bunch of hammer-on and pull-offs. It doesn't really do a whole lot for me, but then it gets some good melodies going on later on when it kind of mixes in some slower sections with some faster sections. And then we get the final chorus and then the song. So overall, the song is still pretty awesome. There are some really, really great moments in this song. I really feel like there should have been some revision to this song, and it could have been great. It's still good. I like it a lot. This is the song that brought me into the band in the first place. So I'm not going to knock it too much, but man, I just think of how good this song really could have been with a little bit more work, and it just makes me slightly sad inside. Still a good track, still a nice way to go with the album, and it does have some variety, adding in the second vocalist, Liv Christine, who does a nice job. Next, we have The Face of Silence. This song is a mix of some fast-paced sections, mainly the verses, with some slower-paced sections. The chorus, a few other mid-sections here and there. This song honestly doesn't really do it for me. It has some interesting moments. I think the solo is pretty good, and I do find it interesting that during the verses, the vocals, the singer sounds a lot like he does during some of the early albums by this band. So that's kind of cool, but the chorus, oh man, I feel like they turned up the medieval factor. I'm not a big fan of medieval sounding power metal. It doesn't really do it for me. I do like some Hammerfall, but a lot of their stuff is way too medieval sounding for me. Same with Blind Guardian. And this song feels like it's kind of turning up that juice just a little bit too much for my taste with the backing vocals and the melodies. It's an alright song, but I feel like it could have been better. Next we have Ashen Rain, and this song does vary things up a little bit. The verses are mostly softer, drums and bass with a little bit of what sounds like acoustic guitar. Parts of it do have some heavier guitaring thrown in there, but it is a little bit slower paced, more of a mid-tempo paced song. The verses are actually okay, and the bridge I like a lot. Unfortunately, there's no guitar solo, so there's nothing to really break things up, and again, the chorus sounds way too medieval for my taste. I can't really get into this song too much. It's okay, but again, not one that I love. Down Here Is next. This song is another up-tempo song mostly, especially during the verses. Yet it does have its own pacing, its own guitar riff, its own vocal melodies that do distinguish it from the other songs. But I feel like this song doesn't really go anywhere. The chorus kind of seems a bit like a bit of a clusterfuck. I think mainly because I feel like there's too many vocalists during that section. There's no break in the song, there's no guitar solo, there's no bridge. You get the first chorus to start the song, and then you get a verse, chorus, and then the song ends. There's not really a whole lot to it. It's alright for what's there, but I feel like they could have done more. One Last Chance is one of the better songs on the second half. It's also up-tempo, but has its own melody and guitar style that does differentiate it from the other songs on the album. This song's okay. I love the intro. I think that part is really cool, and the verses are pretty decent. The chorus is only okay at best, but at least it doesn't sound as medieval sounding as the last few tracks. Unfortunately, like the last track, there's no guitar solo, no bridge, nothing to break up the song a bit, and this one's a little bit longer, so that gets to be even more annoying. Again, this song is okay, but it could have been better with a little more work. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last track's title, something Opus. This is probably the song with the most potential out of the second half of the album. There are some really nice moments with some really good guitar riffs. The song opens with an acoustic bit. The verses are pretty good and have some variation to them. The first verse is mostly a softer section at a mid-tempo pace with drum and bass, maybe some keys and vocals thrown in there. And then the second verse is heavier. The chorus doesn't really do a whole lot for me, but this song goes on for over 7 minutes and there's not a guitar solo or anything to really break it up either. So at the end of the day, we kind of have a tale of two albums here. The first 5 songs are the start of what could be one of my favorite albums of all time. Those songs are fucking great, but the last 5 songs just don't really do it for me. The last 3 tracks don't even bother to put solos or bridges or anything interesting in there. So this album is kind of hard to rate in a way. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, but I'm kind of very tentative about that. The first 5 songs are so strong that I think that does warrant a fairly high score, but The last 5 songs do drag it down quite a bit. They're not bad tracks, there's nothing bad on this album, but I'm definitely more invested in the first 5 songs. If you haven't heard this band, if you're kind of sick of medieval power metal style, I would recommend giving them a listen. They are a slightly different take on power metal with a little bit of familiarity with that. There definitely are some annoying medieval moments, but I think the good outweigh the bad here.